In my recent videos, I've been diving into quiet but powerful ideas, which is how we guard our proximity, how the people we let close to us shape our relationships, not through one explosive fight or moment, but subtly over time. And something else I've noticed, doubt doesn't ask for permission. It slips in whether we want it or not, and doesn't need our blessing. It just needs space. Today, I want to share a simple question that changed everything for me. Simple, yet a bit uncomfortable. Who benefits from your doubt? Not who caused it, not who they thought they were trying to help, but who really gains when you feel unsure, when you feel confused, or even if you feel disconnected. Because when I started asking myself that honestly, everything shifted. Everything. It shifted in the way I listened, who I trusted, and how I protected what matters most: my marriage, my faith, and ultimately myself. So, why does this question hit so deep? It's because it's uncomfortable and asks us to look beyond good intentions. So many of us were raised to focus on intention alone, and some of us weren't even raised to look at intention at all. But if someone means well, that's what we were taught, that should matter most. I want to pause here for just a moment because everything I'm talking about in this video is something I've had to sit with slowly, not emotionally, not all at once, and not under pressure. That's why I created Guard Your Proximity. The full paid version is a comprehensive reflection workbook. It's for women who already sense that something feels off, not necessarily in their relationship, but in the environment around them. The voices they're hearing, the conversations they're having, and the way certain interactions linger long after they're over. The paid guide goes deeper. It includes structured reflection prompts to help you notice who has repeated access to your thoughts during vulnerable moments, how certain conversations affect your emotional safety, and whether the environments you're in are stabilizing you or quietly introducing doubt. It's not about fixing your relationship. It's not about confronting anyone. It's not about being told what to do. It's about protecting your inner space while clarity is still forming. And if you're not ready for something that in depth, or you just want a starting point, there's also a free version linked below. The free guide is shorter and more introductory. It helps you understand what guarding proximity actually means. You can begin by noticing which voices linger in your thinking and reflect how certain spaces make you feel calmer or more unsettled. There's no advice in either version, just structured reflection. Both are linked in the description. Start where you are, move at your pace. If this conversation about influence and environment is resonated, I've linked my Guard Your Proximity reflection guides below. We were taught to give grace, assume positive motives, and try not to doubt. And trust me, grace is vital. Intentions do count. But here's the catch: good intentions don't erase impact. Caring doesn't guarantee safety. When I asked who benefited from my doubt, I realized a hard truth. Some people felt more important when I was uncertain. Some found relevance in my confusion, and some felt their voice mattered more when my relationship felt fragile. That's not to say they woke up wanting to hurt me or they chose violence, but what role did my doubt play for them? That was real, and it needed to be seen. So, how do we talk about how doubt opens doors for others? Now, I didn't understand this for a long time. Doubt isn't just an internal struggle. Doubt creates real openings for people around us. When you're doubtful, someone else can step in as the interpreter. When you're confused, someone else can shape the story. When you're uncertain, someone else can position themselves as the voice of certainty. It might look like someone confidently telling you what they see. It might look like someone explaining your relationship back to you. It might even feel like someone offering clarity, a kind of refuge, especially when you're exhausted. And let me tell you, borrowed clarity can feel like a blessing when you're emotionally drained, but it always comes at a cost. Because when others start to benefit from your doubt, your urgent need for clarity shrinks. So, when does support turn into steering? This was one of the toughest lessons for me. I thought I was just processing, being honest with people who cared. But looking back, some conversations were less about understanding and more about steering me toward certain conclusions and steering me away from trusting my own heart and my own beliefs. And this steering wasn't loud. It showed up as concern. It showed up as repeated questions and insightful comments like, I just don't think that's normal. That sounds really unhealthy. I don't know how you put up with that. And if it were me, I wouldn't tolerate that. None of those tell you what to do outright, but all of them point you somewhere. So now, how does doubt serve other people's needs? This is exactly why asking who benefits matters so much. Doubt doesn't happen in isolation. Sometimes it serves people who want to feel needed. Sometimes it feeds those wanting more influence. Sometimes it confirms the beliefs others already have. Sometimes it makes some feel more secure when others are unstable. Again, this isn't always done with bad intent, but impact doesn't care about intent. If someone repeatedly becomes more relevant or emotionally close when you're confused, that's significant. So, your doubt is valuable information. And here's the mindset shift that changed my life. I stopped treating doubt like an emergency to fix everything immediately. Instead, I started treating it like information, like a signal. Questions I began to ask where, is this doubt rooted in what's really happening inside my relationship? Or is it coming from repeated exposure to other people's stories and interpretations? Because if the doubt was fueled externally, the fix wasn't with my relationship. The problem was the environment around it. And that was the moment that I realized I can say no. There was a moment when everything slowed down. I stopped talking things through so much, and instead, I grounded myself. I talked to my husband honestly. I prayed a lot, and I also reflected. And then suddenly, the holes in the story stood out clearly, where assumptions crept in, where conclusions didn't match reality, where narratives fell apart under a closer look. And in that clarity, I realized I didn't have to take those pieces of the story on as truth. I didn't have to debate or justify, which I had an issue with. I could simply reject the framing quietly because not every disagreement needs to be aired out, and not every decision needs explaining. That's when I came to re-ranking people in my life. One of the most practical things I did was reordering who mattered in my life. Not by history, not by obligation, and not by role, but by trust. So, who truly cared about my marriage? That was my first question. Who treated my husband with respect? Who didn't benefit from my confusion? It became clear if someone gained closeness or authority through my doubt. Now, I didn't need to confront them. I just adjusted how much access they had. Not everyone deserves emotional access. And this realization was freeing. Not everyone should hear your inner world. Now, some people get updates. Some people get surface level information. Some people don't need to hear anything at all. That's not dishonesty. It's discernment. Emotional access is the privilege, not a right. And that privilege comes from safety, consistency, and respect, not just familiarity or history. Now, if you see yourself here, if you're watching and feeling like you've been open with people who benefited from your doubt, please hear this. You are not weak. You are not failing. You were vulnerable, maybe even too vulnerable, like me. And vulnerability without boundaries invites unwanted influence. This isn't about blame. It's about new information, and information always gives you options. So, what are your options moving forward? You don't have to make sudden drastic changes. You don't need to cut people off overnight. You don't owe anyone an explanation. Some wise steps might be sharing less, slowing down conversations, pausing before processing out loud, and changing who you turn to for clarity. I did a lot of those steps, and it helped me tremendously. You can also do some things like observing actions instead of just intentions, maintaining relationships while setting boundaries, and also choosing distance as protection, not punishment. All of these options are valid, and you can always change your mind later. So, how do we bring everything together? Remember, guarding your proximity isn't about fear, it's about stewardship. Now, this is stewardship of your marriage, of your faith, and of your emotional well-being. And one of the clearest ways to practice this stewardship is by asking, who benefits from my doubt? Because real clarity doesn't come from louder voices. It comes from fewer, safer ones. Now, sometimes the problem isn't the relationship. Sometimes it's the room you're sitting in. And once you realize that, your confusion fades and discernment takes place. Thank you so much for watching and spending time with me today. If this video resonated with you in any way, I'd really appreciate you taking a moment to like and subscribe. Sharing this video helps it reach someone else who may need it, and that support truly makes a difference. If you'd like to keep coming back, make sure to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. I appreciate you being here, and I'm grateful you chose to spend part of your day with this content. Take care of yourself, move at your own pace, and I'll see you next time.